Rear naked choke. The rear naked choke is one of the most effective and feared moves in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. It started in Judo, where it's called Hadaka Jime in Japanese, which translates to naked choke, because you don't need a gi, the traditional martial arts uniform. So how do you do it? In MMA, the fighter takes their opponent's back, slips one arm under the chin, and locks it with the other arm in a figure 4 grip. By applying pressure to the carotid arteries, it forces the opponent to go unconscious in seconds if they don't defend. It's a powerful submission, and if you saw Khabib versus Conor at UFC 229, you saw it firsthand when Khabib used it to finish the fight. It's a move that gets the job done fast. The guillotine. The guillotine is one of the fastest ways to end a fight in submission grappling. It's often used when an opponent shoots for a takedown with their head exposed, and it became a go-to for smaller fighters who needed to stop aggressive wrestlers. To do it, you wrap one arm under the opponent's chin, lock the other hand, and either pull guard or sprawl to apply pressure. The choke compresses the throat, cutting off airflow, which can make the opponent tap out fast. It's a game changer when executed right, just like John Jones's standing guillotine choke of Lyoto Machida at UFC 140, a moment that reminded everyone just how quickly a fight can go from back and forth to lights out. Arm-in guillotine. The arm-in guillotine is a tougher variation of the regular guillotine choke. Unlike the standard guillotine, where only the neck is targeted, the arm-in version traps the opponent's arm along with their neck, making it significantly harder for your opponent to escape. This added restriction on their shoulders limits their mobility and ability to fight the choke, making it harder for them to use their strength and explosiveness to slip out. The arm-in guillotine also takes away their ability to bridge and roll, which makes it perfect for dealing with powerful wrestlers or aggressive grapplers. It definitely keeps your opponent in check. Arm triangle. The arm triangle choke is a powerful hybrid submission that combines a headlock with an arm trap. It started in Judo as kata-gatame and was later perfected in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before becoming a signature move in MMA, especially for fighters in the heavier weight classes. To pull it off, you use the opponent's own shoulder to block blood flow to their brain while applying downward pressure. It's usually done from side control or mount, and it works great against opponents who have trouble escaping because of size or position. Essentially, you're using their body against them to cut off blood flow, making it a tough submission to escape once locked in. Some of you may be too young to remember, but Brock Lesnar used it against Shane Carwin in an incredible comeback to finish him in the second round at UFC 116. Triangle choke. The triangle choke is one of the most iconic submissions in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Funnily enough, this move also comes from Judo, where it was known as Sankaku Jime, before Brazilian grapplers made it their own. The move is usually done from the guard position. You lock your legs around your opponent's neck and one of their arms, then pull down on their head while tightening your legs. This creates a triangle shape with your legs, cutting off circulation and forcing them to tap or pass out. Think of it like squeezing a hose. When you apply pressure, the flow stops. What makes the triangle so effective is how simple and fast it can be when done right. It's a move everyone fears. Darce choke. The Darce choke is a submission named after Joe Darce, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who popularized it in competition. It's a variation of the arm triangle, applied from a different angle. Instead of locking it from a dominant top position like side control, it's typically executed from the front headlock or turtle position. To perform it, you thread one arm deep under your opponent's neck and across to their opposite armpit, then lock your hands together, creating a tight squeeze that restricts blood flow. The Darce choke secures the grip beside their neck, making it a deadly tool in scrambles. A perfect showcase of its effectiveness was at UFC 311, when Islam Makhachev used it to submit Renato Moicano and retain his lightweight title. Anaconda Choke. The Anaconda Choke is a powerful submission named after the deadly predator known for suffocating its prey. It's an arm triangle choke that traps an opponent's head and arm in a front headlock position. Unlike the Darce choke, where the arm threads under the armpit, the Anaconda Choke locks outside the opponent's arm. The finishing move involves a distinctive rolling motion, often called the gator roll, which tightens the choke by using body leverage. Mastering this technique requires precise positioning and control, making it a sneaky yet highly effective weapon in grappling and MMA. Flue Choke. The Von Flue Choke became famous when Jason Von Flue successfully used it in the UFC, and it has since become a go-to counter for the Guillotine Choke. When your opponent locks in a guillotine from the bottom, instead of trying to pull your head out, you pass to side control and apply heavy shoulder pressure onto their neck. By trapping their arm and driving your weight down, you cut off their blood flow, forcing them to tap out or go to sleep. It's a sneaky yet effective move that punishes opponents for holding onto the guillotine too long. Ezekiel Choke. The Ezekiel Choke is one of the few submissions that can be executed from multiple positions, including from both mount and guard positions. The key to this choke is using one arm to wrap around the opponent's head, while the other grips either the G-sleeve or forearm, creating a tight squeeze on the neck. In G Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the sleeve acts as a lever to increase pressure, while in no G, a rear naked choke grip is used instead. This move is highly effective because it doesn't require immense strength, just proper positioning and technique. The name Alexei Oleinik has become synonymous with the Ezekiel Choke, securing multiple victories with this technique, including finishes from the bottom mount position. This guy's nuts. Bulldog Choke. The Bulldog Choke is a brutal submission rooted in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu principles of head control, where the head goes, the body follows. It's an unconventional but highly effective choke, often executed when an opponent tries to escape back control. Unlike the rear naked choke or guillotine, the Bulldog Choke is applied from the front, putting immense pressure on the neck. In fact, Ben Askren famously used it to submit Robbie Lawler at UFC 235, proving its effectiveness at the highest level. While rare in competition, when locked in correctly, it's nearly impossible to escape. The Pillory. The Pillory Choke, sometimes known as the Pace Choke, was first used in professional MMA when Nick Pace submitted Will Campuzano in a UFC fight in 2010. If any of you crazy martial artists out there want to give it a shot, here's how to do it. Start by securing half guard and breaking your opponent's posture by pulling their neck downward. Swing your leg over their neck to trap them in place, then thread your arm under their neck and grab your own ankle. Finally, clasp your hands in a gable grip and apply pressure while tightening your leg to complete the choke. This move is especially effective during scrambles when your opponent is trying to escape or transition. The Lapel Choke. The Lapel Choke is a brutal submission in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo. This move uses your opponent's own G-collar against them. To perform it, start in mount, open their collar with one hand, and insert your dominant hand deep into the collar. Grip the opposite collar with your other hand, then pull both hands toward you, while tightening your arms to apply pressure on their collar, choking your opponent. It's a highly effective move in G-based grappling. Although, you might be wondering, can you do a lapel choke in the UFC? Well, in the early days of the UFC, Gs were actually allowed, and Royce Gracie was famous for using this technique. Ninja Choke. The Ninja Choke is a slick and effective twist on the guillotine. What makes it special is the palm-to-palm grip around the neck, making it way harder for your opponent to escape. It's fast, explosive, and can catch them off guard in the middle of transitions. The choke works by applying direct pressure to the neck, and when done right, it's quick and devastating, like a stealth attack. Remember UFC Fight Night 232, when Joe Anderson Brito Ninja choked Jonathan Pierce? And then, in true ninja fashion, he attempted the rare and highly unorthodox pantsless victory celebration. Let's not talk about that. Forearm Choke. The Forearm Choke is brutal yet effective. You drive your forearm into your opponent's windpipe and use your body weight to amplify the pressure. It shines in no-G situations where grips aren't an option, making it a go-to move for close quarters combat and self-defense. This choke can be executed from mount or side control, giving it serious versatility. Despite its simplicity, it works fast, forcing a tap or even putting someone to sleep, making it a must-have weapon for any fighter. North-South Choke. The North-South Choke is a killer move to execute. To do it, transition from side control to the north-south position, positioning yourself chest to chest with your opponent but facing opposite directions. You need to encircle their neck with one arm, ensuring your bicep presses against one side of their neck. Then apply pressure by lowering your shoulder and sprawling your hips downward to secure the choke. What makes it so effective is the combination of controlling their body and using your weight to add pressure. It's a favorite among heavier grapplers because they can really lay it on. Scarf Hold Choke. The Scarf Hold Choke comes from a classic judo position called Kisa Gatame. In this move, you trap your opponent's head under your arm while putting pressure on their chest and neck. The key here is how vulnerable it makes them. Once you're in this position, it's tough for them to escape or defend. Believe it or not, the Scarf Hold Choke has been used in the UFC. Juan Espino actually pulled it off against Jeff Hughes at UFC 253, securing a submission victory. Inverted Triangle Choke. The Inverted Triangle Choke is an advanced twist on the classic triangle choke, set up from a top position like side control or mount. Instead of the usual positioning, you trap your opponent's head and arm inside your legs, but you're upside down compared to their body. What makes this choke so dangerous is the positioning angle. This setup can often catch opponents off guard, making it a sneaky submission. Shoulder Pressure Choke. The Shoulder Pressure Choke is a brutal submission where you use your shoulder to apply direct pressure to the opponent's neck, cutting off both their airflow and blood flow. It's most effective from top positions like side control or mount. The key is using your body weight to drive the pressure into their neck. It's simple but highly effective. especially when you have control of the position. Islam Makhachev demonstrated this perfectly against Drew Dober at UFC 259, squeezing the literal life out of him. Peruvian Necktie. The Peruvian Necktie combines a guillotine choke with leg leverage. You begin with the guillotine grip around the neck, then thread your legs around the opponent's body to apply more pressure. The key is pulling down hard on their neck while using your legs to tighten the choke. It's a high-risk move that demands perfect timing and precision, but when executed, it's one of the most dramatic finishes you can land. Shout out to CB Dollaway, who was the first to use it in the UFC to submit Jesse Taylor. Front Headlock Choke. The front headlock is a dominant position in wrestling and MMA, allowing you to control your opponent's posture and dictate the fight. From here you can hit a guillotine, Darce choke, or even go for a takedown, but there's also a variation of the front headlock choke, the Schultz choke. At UFC 117, Matt Hughes used this front headlock variation to submit Ricardo Almeida and earn Submission of the Night. To execute this choke, secure the front headlock position, thread one arm across their neck, and use your other arm to push their head down, applying pressure to choke them out. It's a very versatile and effective move. Hand squeeze. The hand squeeze is a simple yet effective submission. It's simple. You grab your opponent's throat and squeeze with everything you've got. There's really not much technique to this. This choke was famously used in UFC 4 during the fight between Keith Hackney and Joe Son, where Hackney went for it all. It's a move that can catch opponents off guard when they least expect it. As for its practicality, fighters have developed more refined submission techniques over the years, making the hand squeeze less practical in today's UFC. Alright, that's it for today. Let me know your favorite choke in the comments. Also, which one would you use if you had Dana White in a headlock? Drop your ideas and I might just try it in my next video.